Well, welcome back to Coffee and Questions. I don't know, was that enthusiastic enough? Was I Coffee and Questions? Hey, welcome back to Coffee and Questions. I mean, shit, I got a million ways I can say it, right? So, should we get right to the questions? I think we should. First question is going to be about the Wolverine Overman. And listen, I'm going to get to some questions and then I'll start talking about this other stuff that's around. So Jake, he bought the Wolverine Overman. And this is on the YouTube comments page for the Wolverine Overman non-metallic toe. So apparently he bought it, lasted him 6 months, tore where all the materials come together. It's kind of like a flex line where he's flexing his boot. And then he returned it. He got another pair because Wolverine and any place you buy them from is usually pretty good on returns, especially in things like that, where soles might crack, where materials come apart, where it doesn't show a lot of wear and abuse. Most retailers are going to take them back, and most retailers have an understanding with Wolverine because it's one of the biggest shoe companies in the world, that they can just take them back and give you full credit on them. So he then got a second pair, and the same thing started happening. His question is it him or is it the boot? Because he's really unsure. I mean, the Overman is a really comfortable boot, and it's kind of overlooked in the whole spectrum of work boots today. I mean, it sits on the shelf. It looks a little modern. It's got a lot of colors and sections and whatnot, and some Everguard, and it's got all the bells and whistles. But it really does get the volume turned down when you place it next to like a Boondock from Timberland Pro. I mean, you put them both on, you're definitely going to go with the Boondock. It's just, it's a big, soft, lazy boy on your foot. You know, it's comfortable. But the Overman's got a little bit more of a supportive fit with the same amount of comfort. So he's asking me if I have any recommendations on replacing this thing. If it's just him, or whatever, is it going to fall apart? And to be honest with you, Jake, send me some photos of this boot, and let me see, if you got any photos of the first one. Let's see what's falling apart there, and maybe it's time to move away from more modern type boots and kind of move yourself back into older styles where there's fewer chunks of leather. A lot of stuff from Red Wing, a lot of stuff from Thorogood, they all have the single piece type leather where it's one section of leather across the front. And when you flex your foot, you're really flexing leather. You're not flexing seams. Because when you got materials that shoot together and you're bending in that material line, eventually something has got to give. And usually it's going to tear. So that's my first question. Jake, I hope that helps out. Remember, you can always email me if you want to send me some photos, or if you just want to talk about it a little bit more, or if you got some ideas on boots that you want to pick up that you feel are more up your alley, stuff for you. Shoot me over that email. Next questions actually falls into my email spectrum. Okay. First thing is the 1490 from Doc Marten. For some reason, got a bunch of views this week. I mean, it's ridiculous how many people watch that. It must be a going back to school thing where kids are looking for their, hip alternative boot or something, and so they're looking for these reviews. So this review got a lot of watches. The other thing that review got, it got comments, but it also entitled me to a couple mean emails. Now, it's going to take a lot to hurt my feelings with words on the internet. It's going to take even more when you're emailing me about a boot, about a product that you had no hand in designing, making, or anything. You're going to go to the ropes and you're going to fight and defend something that you might have only owned a pair, maybe two pairs. It's a product. That product has no love for you. That company has no love for you. Any emotions you put onto that product, that's your own fault. So when somebody talks ill will about it because it's a piece of crap, don't feel bad. Maybe examine what they're saying and think about it. Maybe it truly is a piece of crap. So, that being said, the young gentleman from Connecticut who, hold on, who felt it was necessary to tell me about his history with Doc Martens. And then he also wanted to tell me that the boot is more of a casual boot, and I really don't understand who wears that boot. You know what? You're right. I really don't understand who wears that boot, because I don't know one single guy out there right now that would even think about putting a pair of those on his feet. So, yeah, okay, I don't know who the end user is on that product, and that might be a good thing, because when I look at the Doc Marten website, when I look at their lookbook, you know, telling you how to dress with their product, it's pretty ridiculous. You know, if you want to dress like a skinhead from the 80s and you think that that's a really good look, that's a really good look. Go ahead. Go for it. Get your Alpha jacket. Get your super tight Levi's. Cuff your jeans up to the top of your boots. And don't forget your suspenders and your white t-shirt. But if that's the look you're going to choose, if that's how you're going to choose to present yourself, all right, not all of us are. Some of us are just regular guys who just love our families and we don't need to look a certain way. So, plain and simple, dude. I'm sorry that you didn't like my opinion on a product. But it's a product. It's not, you're not married to it. It's not part of you. You might buy it, you might work, get some money for your labor and buy the product, but it's not part of you. Don't be so passionate about things that aren't part of you. Be passionate about things that are part of you. Be passionate about your family. Be passionate about your home. Be passionate about your trade. If you have a trade, please be passionate about it. That's something that really lacks today. So, sorry for the rant, but that $14.90 from Doc Marten is a piece of crap. If you watch the whole video, at the end, I asked Doc Marten to send me a pair of their UK-made, handmade boots so I can see the difference between the crap I can pick up out of a Nordstrom's and what I can get from a Doc Marten store. That's all. If you guys want to see a better review, email. If you guys who love the Doc Martens, email Doc Marten. Let them know that, hey, you got to get this guy a pair of boots. He's really talking shit about your boot. Maybe they'll finally get off their asses and send me a pair. You know, but at the same time, maybe they really don't care, and that's fine, because there are companies that really care, and there are companies that make real quality footwear out there that are willing to take the time to send me products so I can look at it and tell you guys about it. All right, off to the next question. Mark V said about the Condor steel toe Dakota boot, the only thing he doesn't like about Condor is most of their products is made in China. You know what? You're right. They make great boots. They're made overseas. And I don't really see that changing anytime soon, because that's where all their production is, and that's where a lot of the company is based. And it is a global marketplace, so there's going to be stuff that's going to come out of there that's going to actually, like I said about that boot, it is a superior made Chinese boot. It's in the level of engineering, construction, and chemistry into footwear, the Condor is a hell of a great boot. So, I mean, it might not hold that ethical thing inside you where, you know, we all want us as much American as we can have, but at some point you gotta say, well, it's just a really good product. And it is a really good product. Okay, so I got one guy asked me a question about being in Chicago. So Tony asked me a question about being in Chicago and whether or not I felt that you should have different boots between summer and winter in Chicago. You know what? 5 years ago, 7 years ago, yes. When we were having some really extreme winters, yes, you needed to have something with at least 400 grams of thin slate and a Gore-Tex liner and a softer freeze-proof type sole so you wouldn't fall and slip on your butt. As time has progressed, whether it be any of that global warming type stuff or whatever, winters for the last 3-4 years have been almost non-existent in Chicago. I mean, we get a little snow, we get a little cold weather, but it's nothing that is like it used to be. And that's kind of just that old man inside me that's coming out as the years progress talking, but it has become a lot milder in Chicago. Now, it might all change. We might be on the other side of that, you know, arc of weather, and we might start getting cold weather, you know. But it is coffee and questions. I should be drinking my coffee. I think that any place where anybody lives, if you're going to have seasons, like we do here in the Midwest, where we have winter, spring, summer, fall, you need at least 2 pairs of boots in order to incorporate the warmer months and the colder months. Now, your warmer months, you know, depending on what that threshold is from cold to hot, really depends on you and what your threshold is for those temperatures. If you're in a place that only gets down to like 22 degrees, you don't really need a heavy insulated boot. You need to invest in socks and just understand the leather and the quality of the boot that you're buying for the colder season. If you live in a place that goes down to negative 15 or 20, you know, not much work going on unless you're plowing in those temperatures. But if you're in somewhere and you need to get around, yeah, you're going to need a packed boot. You're going to need a heavily insulated boot. You're going to need something that just protects your foot from the cold. Now back to like Chicago weather. So since last year, I think we only got down into the single digits, you know, for 4 or 5 days. You could have gotten by with just a basic leather boot and some extra warm socks. You know, of course you're investing money into socks, and I've talked about this before, but that's a really good way to go. Now when the summertime hits, that's when you have to, or the warmer weather. So you got spring, summer, fall, let's say. That's when you really have to think about the boot that you're going to wear in the hottest weather. Is it going to be a straight leather boot, or is it going to be something that has a waterproof barrier built in? If it's going to be something that has a waterproof barrier built in, you're going to have to deal with a little bit more heat, because it takes, no matter what they say about Gore-Tex, you still have to heat the inside of the boot up to your body temperature or hotter in order to get it to work, and that's pretty hot. And so if you have hot, sweaty feet, maybe foregoing a waterproof liner and just keeping your boots oiled in order to penetrate water upon light contact off your boots, and just deal with getting soaked, you know, 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days out of the year, and if it's a rainy season, a whole month out of the year. But remember, all this is contingent on where you live and understanding the climate that you have to work in. If you're working outdoors. Now, if you're just a commuter and you're going back and forth and you're going from your home to the train to the office or to wherever it is that you work, not even an office, let's say it's a plumbing supply store, you still need good supportive boots on your feet. And that's where understanding your environment really comes into play. So Anthony, to answer your question, yes, you should have 2 pairs of boots. You should have your winter boots, your insulated, 400 to 600 grams, depending on who you are and what you like. And you should have your uninsulated boots, which are going to be your summer boots, and then you decide whether or not you want them waterproofed. So, next question. More coffee. Oh, okay, so my next question is going to come out of my email again, and it was asking me about laces. When is the right time to use nylon laces? When is the right time to use leather laces? Okay, nylon laces, always. Paracord, Taslon, nylon, whatever, flat laces, whatever you want, unless you're welding. If you're welding, cutting, torching, if you got any exposure to heat and sparks, switch over to leather. If you want to keep your laces in your boots, switch over to leather. Now, they don't have the same tensile strength, they're not going to last as long, but they're not going to melt when you get slag on your foot. So, you know, that's when you switch over. That's when you think about it. Now, I know a lot of guys in the boot shops are going to try to sell you on the leather laces because they are running like $8.99 to like $12 for some leather laces. And okay, that's not the worst thing in the world. I mean, that is a natural product. Somebody did have to have a machine in order to cut that thing completely straight and keep the consistency in the grain so it doesn't just pull apart. So it's worth $8. And if you're welding, it's definitely worth $8 because then you're not flying through laces that much. And most of the time, leather laces come in like 80 inches or 120 inches. So from the 220-inch laces, depending on the height of your boot, you could probably cut 4 sets of laces out of that one length if you measured and played your cards right. So yeah, only when you're welding. That's the only time I think you should be switching out between your laces. Oh, unless you just like laces. I mean, if you like dressing up your boot and dancing them up with a little fancy colors, go for it, man. They're your boots. Do what you want to them. So let's get to the stuff I got on the desk here, which is this beautiful Armstrong shoe care. and this jelly sandwich that I made for myself for this video, which I haven't even touched yet, and my cup of coffee that's only 3/4 of the way full. So this actually added to an email that I got. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have noticed that 2 weeks ago I posted a photo of me talking about heading out to my dad's house in order to build him a recording studio. Yes, my dad is a musician. I grew up in a house of musicians and bikers. So there's always guitars, drums, basses, keyboards, synthesizers. I mean, we always had this stuff around the house. So instead of me going that route and becoming a motorcycling guitar player, I became a cabinet maker, carpenter. You know, I went the exact opposite route of my brother and my father. So it was my dad's 65th birthday, and he asked me, actually, it was my dad's 65th birthday, and I asked him, what do you want? What do you just want to go out for ribs and get some beers? Do you want to hang out? And since him and my mom just moved from Indiana back into Illinois to be closer to me and the old lady, he said, I would really like a recording studio. They had one back on their old property, that we just converted a bedroom over into a recording studio for them. We soundproofed it. No building was in, just running wires and putting up foam and stuff. But so on Instagram, if you're following me, you would have seen that I posted a photo of me on the train, just talking about that I was going out to do that, And silly me, I've been recording this whole thing, so I'm going to turn it into a video. But silly me, I actually thought that I was just going to use my hand miter saw. No, trust me, my hand miter saw isn't a cheap little Stanley, $15 miter saw. It's a Lie-Nielsen. I have a custom-made miter box that has all kinds of angles and, everything for, 45, sliding bevel for crown that you can cut by hand. It's a custom-made miter saw that I made, many, many years ago for myself for this purpose. And my saws are Lie-Nielsen. So, it's older stuff, and it's an older saw, but all my saws are sharp. I've had them sharpened. They sit in the closet. I don't use them much anymore because I don't do any real carpentry. But, so, first day, I did about 45 cuts, and I couldn't move my arm. I haven't had to cut material like that in so long. So I bought a miter saw. And this is the miter saw I bought. It's a Evolution miter saw. I got it off Amazon. It was $1.99. But what I really like is the miter saw table that I got from Hitachi. This thing is perfect. It is the perfect height. It's the perfect height for me at my height, for one. It doesn't have adjustable legs. It stands at the perfect height. Your ability to square off the blade and keep your material straight, or at least level with the extension arms, is really nice. And for the price, Jesus, I couldn't go wrong. $139 on that. It was pretty badass. The saw I got, this Evolution saw, out of the box, I have to say, now, in all my years, I've had many miter saws. I've only had one sliding compound miter saw, and that is what I was kind of going back to buy. I had a Makita 12-inch blade, sliding miter. You got like 15 3/4 on a slide. It was a good cut. It was, always put on a Diablo blade, and I always got really good square cuts with that saw. So that's what I was looking for. Unfortunately, I didn't want to dish out the cash for it. So I didn't know how long I was going to need this saw for. Turns out that I'm going to have to rebuild the deck. It turns out I'm going to have to build a whole storage shed for my mother, for her gardening stuff in the back of the property. I've got a bunch of projects now, so buying the saw and buying the table is actually a good thing, because now I got the proper tools out where I need them. And all this is going to happen over time. This isn't going to be something we're going to sit down and do in a weekend. But I got to say, this saw out of the box, the laser that shows you where your mark is, okay, it was off by just under a 16th. I mean, that's like the width of the blade. That's like a kerf on the blade. I was really impressed. Out of the box, putting the thing together. Everything was square. Once you locked everything in, you screwed everything together. Out of the box, putting it together, it was almost 100% square. I mean, there's a little adjustments and a little moving things around, but it was almost 100% square. Really impressed with power tools coming out of boxes today. Really impressed with their ability to machine stuff down and to make it nice and square out of the box. Because a lot of people who would be purchasing a miter saw like this would have no idea. A lot of people don't understand the word square. When somebody says it, they think you're talking about them being a nerd. Mainly because they're not carpenters or they don't do anything. So that word doesn't mean the same thing as it does to us. So knowing how important that is when you're building walls and you're building a room, how important it is to have square materials, or at least square cuts on each side, and then work with it, is kind of overlooked by a lot of people who don't work in the trades or aren't carpenters. I'm impressed, man. I'm impressed with just the quality of things that, I think the last time I bought a sliding miter saw, and I had a table, an extension table that didn't have any extension arms on it. I think I paid close to $800. I mean, we're going back 12 years ago, maybe 15 years ago, the last time I had to buy a sliding miter saw. So, wow. I mean, the price has dropped. The quality on the cheaper stuff might not be there, but the quality on this Evolution saw, and I realize this is not a commercial saw. This really is a home improvement type, sitting at the house in your home shop saw. Worth every penny of the $200. Came with a compound blade for cutting metals and plastics. I just used that blade. I didn't have time to buy a blade. I've been using that blade on finished work. No good. I had to build a double soundproofing door, so it's two doors that open like this, and you go through and it locks and it vacuums in order for it to be a soundproof room. So doing the trim work around the door where the casements are going to seal in, I had to build custom cases and all that stuff, but doing that trim work, it had some tear out, and that blade is not a good finished blade. It's not a finished blade, it's a compound blade. So I should have known better at the first cut that I saw it rip the shit out of the material. Thank God I was only squaring an end. As I went slower with the blade, no problem. Just nice slow cuts, that compound blade. Very little tear out, nothing you couldn't fix with your thumbnail. The next thing here is Nick's boots. So I opened up these boots last night, and I'm going to share that video with you guys right here. So while you guys watch me open up these boots, I hope you enjoy the music I put to it. I'm going to eat this sandwich. Pretty damn cool, aren't they? Like I say, Nick's boots, out of this world. So, we're going to have to wait for the full review on these. And that will happen soon. The next thing I got here is, I got this in the mail this week. This is from Armstrong's All Natural Brooklyn Shoe Care Kit. But it's Armstrong's All Natural Shoe Care. Now, this is a kit that they have, and it is quite impressive, I must say. So, in the kit, beautiful horsehair brush, 2 beautiful horsehair brush. This brush, this is a great shine brush. This is why I didn't own one prior to this, beyond me. The best part about this, these parts that are going to last you the longest, that you're going to have around long after anything else is gone, these parts made in the USA. And nice too. If I had to guess, maple handles, you know, horsehair embedded into maple handles. It looks like maple, judging by the grain on there. Yeah, it's got the flake in there like maple. So it's probably just like a nice rock maple or hard maple. The next thing, well, after you get all that stuff out, all right, a couple cloths, nothing major, just a couple little cloths. I like a bigger cloth, of course, because, you know, I'm cleaning boots. But so the 2 products they send along is a leather conditioner and a boot shine, a neutral boot shine. So the whole kit is just awesome, and I will do a full video on the kit, just showing it off and, you know, talking about it with you guys. All right, guys, so that's it. Armstrong shoe cleaning kit, Nick's boots, questions, coffee, and did I really just do a tool review? I think I did, but it wasn't a quite full review. I guess I should have done a better review and like an unboxing and putting together the Hitachi miter saw stand, because it was pretty easy. I mean, it was pretty logical how it goes together, but it's pretty easy, and it's a heavy duty square stand. It's beautiful. The saw is great. So I guess I did do a tool review, but it's not really a tool review. So not like my opinion matters on tools yet, you know. All right, so that's that. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit my subscribe button below. Any questions, please, you put in the comments box below on this video about any boots or anything else. If you got any questions that you want to email me personally, you know what the email address is. And I'll see you next time on Coffee and Questions with the Boot Guy. Thanks, guys. See you later.